guys, it's Holly. So today I wanted to have a look at a set I recently acquired thanks to good old eBay, and that is the 2018 LEGO Marvel Infinity War Sanctum Sanctorum. Now this has been a build that I've had my eye on for a while. It's been one of my most wanted sets of all time, but it was just so expensive that I didn't know if it was going to be worth it or not. But you know, I really wanted to have all of the Tom Holland Spider-Man suits, and I found one for a really good deal, so I snagged it. I did it as a build stream, and I really wanted to talk about it and sort of have a look at it from 2021's sort of perspective, looking back at 2018. Now also, just an FYI, I did buy this set used, so some of the sticker application isn't the absolute best, as you know, I would hope to apply it myself, but overall the condition of this thing is really good, and I was really impressed and got a really good deal with this set, so let's go have a look at it. So here is the Sanctum all built up, and as I sort of explained, I built this entire thing on stream just in case you do want to see it build. But before we have a look at the set, I want to have a look at the figures, since these are some of the most valuable things out of this set now. So first up, we have Doctor Strange, who comes with these two orange Power Blast pieces in order to represent the portals of the Sorcerer Supreme. And when you take them off, you can get a better look at these printings, which honestly, when looking at the photos of the brand new Doctor Strange from the Spider-Man No Way Home sets, I feel like this printing is just so much more intricate and detailed. Doctor Strange also has a really nice hairpiece, which is a recoloring of the dog trainer. And what's so special and exclusive about this hairpiece is you've got the white strands on the side to sort of represent his hair better. But I really like the face print for Doctor Strange. I think it works really well. I really like the capes being used as well. You get that sort of more firm and starchy one at the top, and then you get the classic sort of rubbery, spongy superhero's cape at the bottom. And then on the back as well, there is a tiny bit of back printing on the torso, which again just looks super intricate and super detailed. I'm a really big fan of this figure. Next up is Iron Man in the Mark 50 armor, and there's nothing too special about this armor as it's the exact same one, as is exactly the same as the one in the Iron Man armory. He also comes with those two blue Power Blast pieces, as well as this sort of flight mode one, but it doesn't come with that blue base that we typically see these days to stand it on top of. And overall, I really like the design of this figure. The nanotech Iron Man suit looks really nice. The chest plate's incredible. The amount of shading and detail just looks really good and adds a lot of depth to this figure. The fact that there's hip printing as well is a major win, and I feel like just in general with any Iron Man, I feel like the only thing that could make it better is by having arm printing. I personally really like this version. It's one of my favorite Iron Man suits, and I'm a huge fan as well of the original Iron Man helmets, so for me this one is a really big win in my book. And of course it's got that newer sort of Tony Stark face with all of the sort of holograms on one side, and then the typical Tony smirk on the other side. Just like I said, this figure looks amazing, one of the best Iron Man suits, but is pretty common considering he is in that Hall of Armor set. Next up is of course the highlight of this set for me, and that is the Iron Spider minifigure. This is one that I've been really sort of tempted to get for a while. I wasn't a huge fan of the suit in the movies, but I've come to know and love it, and I just thought that this figure is probably going to skyrocket when the new movie comes out, so I wanted to get my hands on it early, and this figure is really well done. The torso and the printed arms are a really big win in my book. It's got the same face as well from the regular Homecoming suits. The only downside to this figure is that it doesn't have dual molded legs, because you have this really nice printing from the front, but when you start to tilt the figure back, you can see all of that printing just sort of stops there on the legs, so you really don't want to move them around all too much, and it also just ruins it a bit from the side. I feel like that's the only thing they could have done to make this figure a bit better, or even maybe just by using the older sort of Iron Spider arms that were on the regular comic book Iron Spider-Man a couple of years ago. To me, these ones just feel a tiny bit small, but the concept is there and they work really well, and I'm really happy to have this Spider-Man suit in my collection, as now at the end of the year I will have all of them, which makes me very happy. I mean, besides Civil War, but we're not gonna sort of ruin that for me. Up next, we have the first of two of Thanos' children, and that is Ebony Maw, and I feel like out of all of Thanos' children featured in Infinity War, he's probably the most notable, although you wouldn't probably really be able to tell considering he doesn't have any hair. It's just all printed on the back of that minifigure head here. But you'll probably recognize him as the one that Tony calls Squidward in sort of that opening scene within New York outside of the Sanctum. And his sort of a little accessory here is this yellow Power Blast piece. And when you take that off, again, there is some really lovely printing on the torso, hips, and legs. His face from the front looks really good. However, I do wish they did something a bit better for the hair, as it kind of just looks a bit weird printed on the back. But again, there's some really nice back printing. And overall, this figure is pretty solid as well. And last but not least, there is Cull Obsidian, the second of Thanos' children, and he looks amazing as well. I love the specially molded head that they've done on top of the big fig. You also have this really nice sort of shoulder armor piece that is molded onto his body too, which is just incredible. You also get some really just lovely printing on the front and the face, which I really like. I feel like if the Thanos headpiece existed back then, that's probably what they would have gone for, and then just done a giant sort of hair piece for those heads. I don't know if you kind of get what I mean here, but he looks really impressive as well. I feel like, again, the only thing that maybe would have benefited it a bit more was some like toe printing to represent his feet or shoes or whatever. So here we have the Sanctum, and I feel like this is one of the only sets that doesn't really have a side build. I mean, technically it does, and it is this little corner over here, which you'll see is actually just a little connection for the buildings. There's not too much for this besides a bunch of sort of cardboard boxes, a green trash can with a little bit of pizza stuck next to the bottom of it, as well as this little mailbox with a bunch of sort of stickered mail pieces on it. They're all just sort of rolled up newspapers and things like that, all tied together in a bow. Then, because this set does have Spider-Man in it, you do get one of these web pieces on the front there with what I imagine to be Peter Parker's cell phone attached to it, which I do think is pretty cool. On the side of the newspaper stand as well, it's really nice to see that you get the New York Bulletin, which I imagine is purely because you could not get the license for the Daily Bugle, but as you can see, there is a little reference to Daredevil on there, which of course we managed to get that figure within the Daily Bugle D2C set this year, which I just feel like is really cool and such a really nice sort of throwback looking at it these days. And that little build just attaches here via these two Technic holes, and that is purely so that you can sort of organize the building, which I love this building for many reasons. The first being the fact that it opens up and you can sort of have an entire street front. If I just remove this Technic pin here, you can actually fully open up the build and have these two shops side by side just looking like an actual street, which is amazing. And then you sort of get that typical Lego set dollhouse type of thing where you could spin it round and you've got the interior, but you can also sort of pinch it there and then put that corner piece in, and again you've sort of got a dollhouse, but now you've got a street corner. Or you can just completely enclose it, which is something that you really don't see from too many builds and is one of my favorite parts of this set, because you can just slot this into a city as is with no modifications, though I feel like it could be a tiny bit short, but I just feel like this is incredibly well done. I guess theoretically it's not super accurate to real life as there's a giant street sign hanging off the building, but I think it's a really, really neat feature and just makes this build so much better. So like I said, this little corner piece just slots into those two Technic bricks there, and then you can open it up and it just sort of stops itself there, creating this sort of street corner version of the set. But starting off though, I want to take a look at the actual Sanctum Sanctorum side, because this is the most appealing thing to me overall, and I really love the design of this building. You have the simple sort of triple story building, you have the beautiful Sanctum window at the top there as well, which is beautifully printed and has a real highlight to this set. And you also get that typical Sanctum Sanctorum shape. It's really simplistic, but really well done at the same time. I love all of the texture down at the bottom using the gold bars as well as some jumper plates, even just the angled pieces. You even have the sort of smoothed off city sidewalk, which looks great. Some tiny balconies over here, a lot of windows and pillars. There's just a lot of really nice architecture going on, which I just think is incredible. Also, the way the roof is made by having this piece sort of lift up and just kind of slot in at an angle in order to create that arched roof. works incredibly well. Turning the building around, you do get some sort of plain looking sides, but that doesn't really matter, as the back of this building as well is really nicely textured using a lot of masonry bricks. However, this backside just has a lot less detail sort of put into it. There's a lot of exposed studs, which just really don't look that pretty and could have easily been fixed just with a few tiles here and there. It would have looked a lot neater. You also have some exposed Technic bricks in order to sort of get some play features going, as well as this little fire escape, which is really well built and I really like the idea of it, but I really wish that you didn't have all of these Technic bricks exposed because of it. At the bottom of the building, you have a Bleecker Street sign, which again, technically not super accurate, but I can see why they didn't sort of have a little lamp post poking out, although I feel like that would have just made it just a tiny bit better to have it separate and just sort of hanging on its own. You also get a sort of open sign with a nice sticker on the door frame, as well as this Pepe's Pizza sign, which I'm a pretty big fan of. I think it looks really cute and I love how it's sort of using the chef Lego torso as well as the chef hat. Turning that building around, there are a few little web stickers here and there on some of the windows. There's one at the top as well as that one on the side. And then when you turn it back round to the sanctum side, you can see this window in just a bit more detail and how beautiful that dish piece is. That is all printed and just looks incredible and really solidifies that this is the sanctum. Moving it down before we go inside, you can see that there is also a stickered print on the door with a really nice pattern and also has the number of 177A on the front. Now when you turn it around, we'll have a look at the interior, and as you can see, again, there are a lot of exposed Technic bricks, with a lot of which unfortunately didn't really need to be there. They just sort of are. So first up, we'll take a look at the bottom floor of the sanctum. So here you've got a really nice little build for a green armchair, as well as an axe hanging on the wall. There is no sticker on the back of the door, as you can see. However, there is a stud on the opposing side. Over here as well, there is a little brown crate with a lamp build on it, which is actually chained down to the floor. You can also see that there is a gold sword lying up on the wall, and this sort of nice stickered print back there of what looks to be some sort of runes or symbols and things like that on a scroll hanging up on the wall. On the other side of the bottom of the pizza parlor, there's a really cute pizza oven build, which I think is just so simple and yet so impressive at the exact same time. And then to get the pizzas out, there's this little boat paddle hanging up on the side of the wall, which again, I just feel like is really smart and just ties the whole thing together. In the center, there seems to be some sort of giant barrel. And then at the very front, you have a printed pizza piece, as well as that printed cash register piece hanging over there. And there's also this little Technic bit here, as you can push a Technic rod that is sticking out on the front here, and you can push that back, and then all of a sudden it will sort of knock out that window and cause a bit of a break-in, which I guess is just sort of Thanos' children causing a bit of chaos, but realistically it didn't really happen in the film. On the side you have a little red fire hydrant, and then on the back there is this really nice stickered sort of menu. At the bottom you've got some sort of like loaded fries dish, I take it to be. And in the middle is what I presume to be a shawarma wrap, which I just feel like is a really neat reference. Otherwise, I guess it just could be a burrito, but to me that screams shawarma. And then at the top, you do get, of course, the classic pizza slice, considering this is a pizza shop. Before we move up a level, I wanted to show you guys this side of the outside as well, where are these two stickered pieces. On this side, you have this tan piece with a Spider-Man graffiti. You also have web design classes and this little heart with Liz written in it, which to me at least, I just want to imagine that that's about Liz from Spider-Man Homecoming and that Peter wrote it on the wall as he was like tying up a backpack or something. And then on the other side, you have a Doctor Strange portal with a little portrait of someone hanging on the wall, as well as sort of a street sign just hanging up there. And then on the level above, again, there is just another one of those web pieces. Moving up to the second level, and there's a bit more going on in the sanctum. Firstly, you'll see the other end of that Doctor Strange portal poking through, as you can see the street sign. There's also the same portrait on the wall, as well as a little shelf which seems to have some sort of radio on there. There's a spear on the wall, as well as a stick, and you get this brown chest here, which on the inside just has two regular sort of Lego knives, nothing too too special there. On the left-hand side though, there is this bookcase with a little statuette. Now you'll also see that there is this Technic rod here, and that is so that if you twist it from the outside, the wall will actually pop off and open up this sort of secret entrance here where you'll be able to access the Infinity Stone for this set, which is actually the Time Stone, of course. Sanctum, it just makes sense, and it's just sat there on one of those little 1x1 pieces. Heading over to the other side, and it seems to be this sort of Peter Parker apartment of sorts, because you have these two boxes here, one of which says Pete's stuff on it. Then there's also this little archway here, almost like an apartment or a house. Then you can go through the door and access this little desk here. So on the desk you get a light in the top corner, sort of a bunch of papers stacked, as well as some jars, and a desktop keyboard and computer and all of that. And then on the floor there is this really nice drawing of Peter in his Spider-Man suit. Lying on the wall as well, there is a map with a bunch of different pictures, as well as literally a map itself, a pizza coupon, and a bunch of webs. Moving up to the top level, you can sort of see the rest of this apartment, where for some reason there's a little ledge piece there. Again, another doorway, as well as Peter Parker's bed with a pizza slice on the floor, and a really nice, again, printed panel piece on the wall, which has a drawing of Captain America saying, "I want you to stay in school." What I guess is going to be some sort of math test, and again, some more villains that I imagine Peter's locked up in prison right at the bottom there on those Polaroids. Now this room as well has another play feature where if you push down this web, these Technic pieces will completely knock out the window, and that way Peter can just jump out and go and stop some crime and fight some bad guys. And lastly is the top area of the Sanctum, which, considering its tiny size, looks freakishly like the actual set of the Sanctum Sanctorum. You get two bookcases, one on either side. This one has a sort of skull at the bottom, and then on the other side you have a clear goblet. You have this little table here with a candle sticking out. You also have some more papers and stickered pieces. At the bottom as well there is a little envelope, but that sticker for me wasn't placed all too well when I bought this used, which isn't too bad. At the top is nothing too special. You can stick a little figure here, I guess, and then push that Technic piece right at the bottom, and then send them off flying to sort of, or not really flying, to sort of attack the bad guys. There's also this water cooler with a string hanging out of it, which actually comes down the side of this building, which of course you can sort of wind down and have Spider-Man swinging off, and then you can twist this entire thing just to wind that all up. Otherwise, there's just a bunch of sort of standing room at the top, and there's not really all too much up here. So that is the Sanctum Sanctorum, and I really feel like, at least out of the Marvel sets that I've owned during my sort of Lego journey, I feel like this one has to be one of the best. It's definitely my favorite sort of play set and just regular set in general. Having a building like this, and the fact that it can sort of collapse into one and be easily modified into a modular, is a really big win. The figures as well are incredibly detailed and really well done, and something you just don't see a lot from Lego Marvel these days. And of course, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel as well if you haven't already. And until next time guys, I'll see you later.